They're bringing around the tape, which everybody has seen, two different types of tape, yellow and red. Those are the two types of police tapes. Yellow is the full scene necessary for investigation. That's the tape that may be a block long. It could be 2 houses long. It could be, as I said before, I've seen it whereof it was 4 blocks long in every direction, whatever the case may be. One thing that needs to be said is a myth. And the myth is that if you see red tape, somebody died. That is not the case. If you see red tape is generally the inner sanctum of that scene. Only most police officers can't even go under the red tape. Regularly, it's detectives who come after the police have been there for a while, and detectives are actually doing the investigation. You'll know the detectives because detectives wear regular clothes and a bulletproof vest usually. They have 90% of the time, they're going to have a clipboard as well. Okay, also there we see witnesses. I'll put witnesses in a broad sense. What I mean by that are individuals which are there generally, as I said before, for the event, and those who are there for the victim are all crunched together. That's our pool of help. That's our population that we're attempting to help. Those are the people who we're there for. We're there for people. We're there for individuals. Now, a family, they're there for of the two things that are going on, the event or the victim. Family is there because of the victim. The family is not just there because someone got shot. They're there because Thomas got shot. They're there because Valerie got shot. Now, that's a volatile population. A volatile population in the sense that they're going to be upset. They're going to be emotional. There's going to be a lot going on with the family there. And if you can, there's a very detailed way. I'm extraordinarily, God taught me and showed me I'm extraordinarily careful about everything I do with the family. Because if nothing else, that's the most important thing you could do is work with that family. In particular, the person who if you ever unfortunately have to work at one of these events, whether it's because it's on the block where your church is or whatever, on the block where you live, whatever the case may be, the person that you have to deal with is mom. No matter what, if this person who got killed was a thug, who shot everybody in the neighborhood, who was the terrorized person in the neighborhood, to mom is my child. No matter what, to mom is my child. And I treat that mom as that way because that's her child there. I found out one time that the family that I was helping had given money to for the funeral, had directed to this resource, had directed to that the young man died shooting at the person whose car he had just jacked. And I found that out, and I felt a certain way about that. But the fact of the matter is, when I looked at his mom, I knew that the help was still needed, no matter what the case is. We don't judge, because we're thankful that we don't judge, that God didn't judge us for what we have done. And so we don't judge like that. And so that's where we are. And also, you have to look at the wide population of people that are affected by this. And what I mean by the wide population, yes, you have the family, obviously, but you have the people on the block. The people who just lived there, who yesterday lived their regular life, who this morning, this afternoon, were cutting the grass, were planning. I remember I was at one, there was a family reunion going on the block, and all of a sudden, there's this incident. Now, those people are to be cared for as well. If your church is on that block in particular, then you should really be concerned about these people. These people are there because of, as I said, the event. Not necessarily the victim, but they're there as a result of the event. In other words, they had nothing to do with what's going on, but the fact of the matter is it has now affected their lives dramatically. And in many ways, on many levels. Sometimes it affects a person simply because now they can't get to work because they can't move their car. And you'd be surprised at how upset people get about that. But that's a sign of society. One of the things about these things is you have to realize, and I had to realize, that even though I may be doing the calling that God gave me, whatever the case may be, people don't care about that. People care about what they care about. This whole homicide they're upset about someone died. I remember one situation, it was 2 teachers that were shot and killed. But the fact of the matter is the people who were upset there were upset because they couldn't move their cars to go wherever they wanted to. And so you have to be aware of everybody that's there and their level of care that's needed. So we have the people on the block. You also have some people that might be forgotten. And I always refer to this as the little girl that works at the local restaurant. She works at the local restaurant. She's there when the shooting happens. She may have seen the people who did the shooting. Where she works is right outside. The body may be right outside her job. And she's got to come back tomorrow. And she has no choice. What I do a lot of times is I'll circle back around the next day and I'll go to the businesses in the area and see if there's somebody there who may have a problem, who may have been there. I'll talk to the local business owners if I can. Is there anybody, here? I want you not to be worried. One time I mentioned there was a mass shooting in front of a sandwich shop. I came back the next day, I talked to the owners. Thank you. Please don't move out of this neighborhood. It's important that you're here. It's important that you're here because the people in the neighborhood need you. You're one of the people who people come to de-stress so that situations like this don't happen. I'm saying this so that you know the scope of people that need help, the scope of people you may run into. Now, as I said, this scene, and I'm moving forward kind of at a quick level. If you have questions about any particular, you can let me know. Moving forward, so the scene has progressed. The family, one thing about them, I said that you have to really know who's who in the family because the detectives, as part of their investigation, the first thing they're going to need is the family. They're going to need to talk to mom. They're going to need to talk to that brother. And it can't be godmother. It can't be, they call me Mama Johnson. They call me Mama Davis. It has to be the actual mother. And I know for particular with my culture, with my race, we have a lot of family members that ain't family members. That's the same way I'm sure with everybody. Everybody has an aunt or some cousins that they grew up with as auntie and cousins. And then when they get older, they find out that they ain't related at all. Your mother used to work with her, and so they were very close. My sister is named after an auntie that wasn't an auntie. And so you have these people, but in terms of this, the police have to actually talk to a direct family member. So helping what you have to do, you're working on both sides of that tape. So you're helping out the police department along with the family. Remember I said one of the things you're doing if you're there, you're helping out anybody that's there. You're there to help people. Some of those people have on a badge. Some of those people have on bloody clothing because it was their relatives or whatever the case may be. But you're there. And one of the things that is simple that you could do, that you should do, that people are thrown off by, is you can actually just pray with folks. Sometimes it's that simple. Now, in my case, I actually don't do it very often. People are surprised, but I don't pray at a scene very often. That's simply because when I'm at a scene, that may not be a thing that's possible. And know that you can be a prayer. You can be a prayer, you can be a representative, and you are to be a representative of the hands and feet of Christ. And so when you're a representative of the hands and feet of Christ, people will know who you represent. When you're out there in a big red Brothers in Christ hoodie, then they know that you're not there from the local YMCA. When I'm there and I have street pastor or Pastor Donovan Price introduce myself, and in some cases that's what I do because that's a great icebreaker. Hi, my name is Pastor Donovan Price. Can I pray with y'all for a second? And once you do the hi, I'm there from the local community council. You mind if I pray with you all in a second or once you have a chance? And you may not say that to mom. You might say that to auntie who's helping mom. Or you might say it to somebody else there. You know, there have been times when I get to a scene and I never meet or work with the family. I stop at the porch of somebody who, as I go down the block, he may see me and say, Pastor, what are we going to do about this violence? I stop immediately and engage him, walk up to his walk. Well, I don't know. And he'll start to tell me how long he's been on the block, this, that, or the other, whatever the case may be. And so that's where you are. You're there to deal with people, whether the people are there for the event or for the crime. Okay. Now moving on to the end of the investigation. What's going to happen? The end of the investigation, the detectives have done what they're going to do. They move on to another wave of detectives who come and investigate the scene. And sometimes a third wave of detectives come. They've talked to the family now. And what they do at the end when the detectives leave, and the body removal, Acme has come and taken the body away, that's the end of the scene. There's nothing else to be done. And in that case, is literally nothing else to be done. It's unceremonious. There's not going to be a big deal about it. What's going to happen is the police are going to take down the tape. They're going to get in their cars and they're just going to drive off. Now, hopefully by that time, you've gotten a little information, or you can go back, refer to your local police station and ask them for the information. Sometimes they'll give it to you. Sometimes they won't. But if not, I've circled back at the end, on the next day rather, I've circled back and knocked on doors. Maybe one person out of the whole block may answer the door. It's probably going to be that senior that we talked about. But somebody's going to answer the door, even if they holler through the door. You said, there was a scene yesterday night. I'm sure you know about it. I was wondering if you want to talk about it, if you need somebody to talk to, or I can pray with you for the safety of the neighborhood, whatever the case may be. After that. Okay, I'll wrap it up with
Question.
Mm-hmm.
How does it change if the person, the victim, did not die? They're at the hospital.
If they're at the hospital, generally speaking, the community work that you do still has to go on. Still should go on. It's going to be a little less intense, but you should still try to meet the folks on the block that you can. And for the most part, that's what you should do. I don't suggest going to the hospital. If the people have gone to the hospital, it changes because the hospital is very trippy about people talking to people. They're even in Chicago very trippy about there even being family outside. They're going to kick the family out from outside. They don't care. And so I would suggest you continue your evangelism, continue your service in the neighborhood. Don't follow the body or don't follow the victim because they're still in as much need. It's still traumatizing to them. And what you are is a holy trauma responder. Amen?
And if the victim was one of the perpetrators,
well, if the victim was one of the perpetrators, you won't know. Any questions before we go?
So for the yellow and the red tape, you know how long it's going to be on the crime scene?
On the yellow tape, it's going to be that whole 3 hours, however long it is. And then they'll tape it. One thing about that, sometimes they'll move the crime scene.
Oh.
They'll take that yellow tape and make it bigger if there are more people in the way, or they'll make it smaller, whatever the case may be. But they're still not going to move the yellow tape or the red tape until everything is over, when they're sure.
Do you ever get drawn into court cases, like as a witness, even though you show up?
Oh, never as a witness.
Okay.
There's something that's called court advocacy, which if I'm still dealing with the family and that court case comes up, then I'll go with the family just to support them. I actually, in one situation, was with both families, the family of the young man who was shot and the family of the guy who shot him. And so I was at court kind of with both sides of the family because it was two young men. It was a 14-year-old that got shot by a 15-year-old. And so both families lost a young man to a certain degree. And so I was with the family of the 14-year-old who was killed, suggested, can you help this mother too, because she's lost a son as well. And so I ended up representing or working with both sides of the family at the court case. But that wasn't because I was pulled in as a victim.
Who does the cleanup and restoration?
There are some companies that do that. There are some people who do that. Sometimes landlords will do that themselves. But generally speaking, that's one of the most difficult portions of the thing, finding somebody who does that.
So it's up to
Whoever, when the police leave outside, the fire department will generally do it if it's blood outside. But if it's inside a home, it's just left, and whoever lives there has to take care of it. And that's extraordinarily unfortunate, kind of cruel to a certain degree, but that's the way it goes. And that's a sometime with the Chicago Fire Department. Sometimes they'll do it. If they're busy, then that's that. I've actually, on one occasion, got down on my hands and knees and scrubbed the blood off of the steps in the front thing so the family wouldn't have to deal with that. But anybody knows anything about blood, it's next to impossible to get rid of. The carpet has to be torn up if it's inside. Outside, good luck. You better have some bleach and a strong hose in order to do it. I have my number, I have my card. Please feel free to take one. Take the handout. Any more questions you all have, make sure you give them to me as well. Thank you all.
Thank you.